Okay. So this is what the Bitsy game engine page looks like by default when you open it. It's similar to Twine in the sense that there's no cloud storage, there's no users, and there's no backend. So anything you make here, if you make changes, it'll save it locally in the browser, but only on this browser and only on the computer that you're on. So if you want to work on it and save it, you're going to want to save a copy of the file, which we can't do right now. But if we open up the game menu from our tools, it's very similar to Twine in that you can save a version of the game that you can publish as an HTML file, or you can save the data from the game as a Bitsy file, which you can, save and open in Bitsy on another machine at some point. The interface is pretty simple. By default, everything that you can use has this like little window, and you can close these. And so, if you don't have anything open, you just have this open palette. And then if you go to tools, you can see all of the different components of the game engine. So there's a bunch of different components, but it's very limited. There's not, as many as you would see in a fully featured engine. But there's an about page that has their documentation, and it has little tutorials about how to do different things. There's the game. This is sort of like the file system. You can save the game. There's some basic settings you can change, and you can see the game data, which is kind of cool. You can see the actual data that makes up the game, which is what you save if you save a file. And again, you can save a file, or you can create a new game here. So we'll remember to do that later. There's the room editor. This is the main sort of like level editor that we'll probably have open a lot of the time. This is the exits and endings editors for connecting different levels. We'll go over that in a moment. The paint editor is where you're going to create your avatar, your tiles, which is the scenery, sprites, which are other like NPCs in the game, and then items, which are things that we can collect in the game. There's the color palette, which I'll go over in a moment. Those are what we're going to cover today up until colors. Everything else we'll cover later. But the other features is a dialogue editor, music editor, which is actually really cool, a sound effect editor. This is just like an inventory search function, so you can search for the different components of your game, or the find thing. Then the inventory is where you can save counts for items, and you can also create variables to use in code if you want to. And then there's a record thing where you can record parts of the game as an animated GIF or a snapshot. So that's the tool section. So let's go to the room, and we'll use this to kind of go over some of the basic interface settings or ways that we use the interface. So each one of our sort of like windows is going to have this same similar looking kind of interface at the top. Let's actually go ahead and open the paint at the same time, so we'll see these together a lot. So notice that there's like a name of the thing that we're editing, and then these arrows move between different things. And then you can add a new room by clicking the plus button. You can copy an existing room by clicking this like little copy paste icon. You can delete a room with the trash can, and then you can search. This just brings up the find section. So in the paint section, you can only have one avatar, so you can't use those buttons. But if we click on the tile, you have the same basic interface. I can make new tiles. I can copy a tile. I can delete tiles. Same thing with our sprites and with our items. So when we're editing our room, depending on what we have selected in our paint interface is what we'll be editing in the level. So if I have my avatar selected, when I click, it just puts the avatar somewhere. I'm actually going to start a new game because I've screwed around with this a little bit. Okay, this is what it actually looks like when you start a new game. So you have your avatar, and this is a sprite down here. So they have kind of these like built-in defaults, so you can edit. So like with our example room, Obviously, we should give our game a name first. So let's call this test game, and let's change the example room to start. And so one of the things that's kind of nice about the way that Bitsy is set up is as you edit things, you'll see them update. So we can, move our avatar around, and then if we edit the art for our avatar, we'll see it update in the level. So if we stick our avatar right here, and this is the default avatar they give you, in the paint editor, all you can do is turn things on and off. So if I click on these little squares, they all disappear. And if I click on them again, they come back. That's the only thing you can do. It's very, very simple. You can't really change the color. We can do that in the color palette. But you can see there's going to be 3 basic colors that are assigned. So everything in the game is either going to be the color of the sprite and the avatar. That's only one color. It's going to be the background color, which is this like blue. Or you get this like tile color, which you can set to whatever you want, but you basically just get those 3 colors. We'll look at that more in a second. So let's design our avatar. Let's say I want to just make a little guy with some feet. So I'll just make a little box. Maybe I'll give the box some eyes and some feet. Okay, so that's going to be our avatar. If I play the game so far, I just have this little dude, and I can walk around with the arrow keys, and I can go talk to this cat down here, and you can hear there's some background music, and he says I'm a cat, and that's it. So I'll stop the game. I'm going to turn off the music for now. Okay, so I can add an animation, but I can only do a 2-frame animation. So if I want to animate, I can't even do like left and right. I can basically just do like up and down. So I can go to my 2nd frame, and maybe I'll do like that or something. Maybe I'll do like, here, maybe I'll do this and this. You do have to be kind of creative in the design because it's really, really limited. Okay. So I'm just going to leave that. I don't really care too much, but there we go. There's some options here. Like I can turn the grid on and off if I want to see what it's going to look like without the grid. I can do that down here as well. And I can also turn the walls on and off. I don't have any walls right now, but I can do that. Okay, so that's our avatar. We can also add tiles. So the tiles are going to be our scenery. Right now we just have these like blocks. And if the wall button here is turned on, then the character can't go through the block. So if I turn this wall on and then I run the game again, I'll be stuck. I can't go past these blocks. Okay, so I can have scenery. This happens sometimes. I've noticed where it puts in the wrong drawing. I don't really know why, but if you just click on something, it usually gets fixed. Maybe I'll submit a bug report for that to the developer. Anyway, so we can start to design our block. Maybe I don't want like an actual block. Maybe I want some kind of scenery. So I can turn off all these light blue squares, and maybe I'll draw some like little trees. So maybe I'll do like a tree like this and a tree like this, and I'll add a couple branches and go like that. And so I can use that as some scenery. I can make as many of these as I want. So if I want like a lot of trees, I can hit a plus here and do some more slightly different trees. And now if I draw with that tree, I get that tree. So we can draw a little scene. I might just delete all these guys first. So if I click on all my trees, I'll delete them. And maybe I'll draw, so I have my tree, I'll call this tree 2. So tree 1 and tree 2. So maybe I'll just draw like a little forest and make it go out this way. And I'll give him an option to go over this way too. And then I'll go to tree 2 and I'll draw some more, fill in some random trees. And there we go. So then with these trees, they're a wall. The other trees are not a wall, but they kind of look the same, so that would probably be kind of confusing. So I'll just make these a wall too. And maybe I'll have some like dirt or something just to have something slightly different. So I'll just put like a couple of dots around like that. And I'll draw some dirt around like this. Okay. So, again, you can do as many of these as you want. Or actually, there might be a limit, I don't know. But you can add a lot of different blocks, and you can create your scenery that way. And yeah, that's kind of the basic tile. So now, if I go back, although I need to add in a tree right here. Okay, so now if I run the game, I can't go past these trees. So I can start to kind of design a level where, you know, the player has to go into a certain area. Okay. So then you have sprites. There's my weird cat glitch. So with the sprites, these are just NPCs. You can design them. They can also have an animation. So you could give your cat like a little animation. We could make it like wag its tail like that. And we can change the dialogue. We can say, hello, my name is Jerry. Something like that. There's a bunch of other stuff we can do with the dialogue. I'm not going to get into that today. And you can also add a sound effect. So when we hit the, you know, when we run into that sprite, we can assign a sound effect down here. Right now it's set to this meow sound effect. I'm not going to go into that today. You can make more sprites, so you can have different characters that have different dialogue trees, and you can save variables so they can interact with each other and items and stuff like that. For now, we'll just like leave this here. Then you also have items. Their default is like a key, so you can pick up a key or a teacup. And you can add as many of these into the scene as you want. So the sprite, you can only add one. So if I change the position of the cat, it's just going to change the position. With my items, if I put like a whole bunch of them around, I'll be able to collect those items. So this is, again, kind of what I mean when I talk about opinionated. The item only exists in one particular way. I can add dialogue to it, but the character is always going to pick up the item and it's going to disappear. So once I've added some items into the scene, I'll get this little dialogue, but that item is going to be gone. And that's the only way that items work. You can add code to make them, you know, do other things. You can see there's some text effects. We'll go over this later. But items, you know, always work that way. When you step on them, you collect them, and then they're gone. So yeah, let's make another level and connect them, and then we'll look at our colors last. Okay, so I'm going to leave my paint panel open because I want to create a new level. So let's make a new level. I'm going to call this level 1 since I have start. Now I have level 1. And I'll get to my tiles and I'll do some drawing. So let's make it so that we want to match this tile to this top tile up here. So this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this will be here will be the entrance to this area. So I'll do something like this, and for now I'll just close this off like this. So the player will end up here. And I'll add some more trees over here for fun, and add some dirt, and maybe I'll fill this area with some dirt. And there we go. So this will be level 1. And so if I want to connect the start, this tile, to level 1 to this tile right here, I need to use the exits and endings window. So I can also go here to exits and endings and then click on this little button here that'll open that window, or I can just click it from here. but this will, open it in between. So that's kind of nice. So to edit the exit and ending, this part takes a couple steps. I just have to add a new exit. So I click on this plus button first. And there's a few different types. There's exit, which means you can go back and forth. There's one-way exit, which just takes you from one room to another room, and that's it. And then there's ending, which ends the whole game. So I'm going to add a regular exit. And so now I have to set the exit. So I'm going to move. To set the exit, I have to click this move button and then click the tile I want in the room for the exit. And so if I just click now, nothing happens. I have to hit move and then click somewhere. So I'm going to put this right here. And then I'm going to go to my return. So I'm going to go to level 1. And then click move the return and put it right there. And so now I have this exit that connects the two levels. So that takes a few steps, but once I have that set up, I can walk down here. And now I'm up here. Well, my player animation stopped working. I don't know what's happening with that. Anyway, so now I can go back, and now I'm up here again. And yeah, that's the basic idea of the exit and ending. Okay. So one last thing that I'm going to cover, and then I'll let you guys play around with this. So I'm going to get rid of both of these windows and open my colors window. And so here is what I was talking about. You can see that the color, you can't just like assign random colors to random stuff. You create a palette, and then Bitsy assigns the 3 colors in your palette to the different objects in the scene. So the blueprint is this sort of like dark blue with the light blue and the white. It's, it looks like an actual like architectural blueprint. I can just edit this if I want. So we can see if I go to the colors tab in the room, it's assigned to blueprint. So I can either edit the blueprint or I can make a new palette. So I can assign different color palettes to different rooms. So I can have multiple color palettes in the game. So I'll edit this one first. I'll change the background color, maybe make it like brown or something, or orange. And then I can change the tile color. And we want colors that go well together, that kind of stand out. We want a decent amount of contrast. And then the sprite color, I'll just leave white for now so it stands out the most. So now let's go to my other room, level 1, and I'll make a new color palette. So I'll hit the copy and just call this level 1. And so now if I go down here, there's a new option to select. I can select level 1. And so now I want to select it first before I edit the colors so I can actually see what it looks like. So let's change the background color. Maybe we'll just make it like a little darker, something like that. And then let's change the tile color. Maybe I'll make this kind of like that. So it's just a slightly darker room. I'll leave the sprite color the same. And now I can play the game. And so we've got our new color palette. And we see our other color palette. Okay. So you can make as many color palettes as you want. Maybe there might be a limit, but you can make more color palettes. And you can assign those to different levels, or you can stick with one color palette and assign it to all of the levels. So yeah, those are sort of like the basic things that you use to edit it. We'll talk more about dialogue and go over some of the other stuff next week. But I think that's a good place to get started. And if you want to start adding other stuff, you can go into the About section and look through the documentation. For some reason, it's not letting me click on it. Oh, because I have the game running. I always forget to stop the game. Okay, so if I go to the About section, you can see all these different tools and topics. So if you want to learn how to, do some other stuff, you can look in here. And yeah, what else? That's pretty much it. Make sure, again, to save your game. There's also like a little question mark in the window. So if you want to learn how to use something, this will just open the About section to that section of the documentation. But let's save our game so we don't lose it. So we can go to the game tool, and we can save our data. So we want to save HTML when we're ready to publish. And we can also use that as a backup. We can load the HTML. But to save the data, we can just save our Bitsy file. So if I click Save Data here, that's going to download a file. If I go to my Downloads folder, you can see my Bitsy file here. This is just a text file like we saw earlier. So it just has all the data for the levels and everything we've added. And let's put that into our class folder. And I'll make a new folder for Bitsy and throw that in there. So then, we'll have some workshop time. You guys can get started playing around with Bitsy. For this week, there is another blog assignment. So once you've made a little bit of progress in your game, take a couple screenshots of what you've made and upload that to the blog. I don't think I need to review that at this point since we've done that a few times. But if you want to go over that, let me know, and I'll I'll work with you. Very, very quick intro to Bitsy. It is pretty. I think once you sort of understand the basic way that it's set up, it's pretty easy to start editing and playing around with it. But there's a few things that may be a little counterintuitive. So if you run into any issues, just let me know and I'll come take a look. Any general questions? Okay, cool. I'm going to stop the recording here.